Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Get connected, Fitchburg. We're launching Fitchburg Connect, the city's new monthly e-newsletter that keeps you informed about all the events, services, and updates that matter to you. Get it in your inbox once a month. Sign up today to get Fitchburg Connect.
And keep me on my toes. That's right. I would rules. Yeah. I don't know what it is. So. All ready? All right. Calling to order the Community Equity Advisory Committee for the City of Fitchburg on March 25th, 2026. And our first agenda item, approval of the minutes. Number 2. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve the minutes from February 25th, 2026.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
And
Roll call vote.
roll call vote. So all in favor?
Aye.
Cool. And motion passes. So then we'll go into number 3, public appearances for non-agenda items. And Sarah, do we have any public appearances or comments?
No comments and no public appearances.
Great. Moving right along to number 4, agenda items. Agenda item number, or letter A. This is just an update from each of the subgroups. And we had, in our prior meeting, talked about the DEI calendar, programming for the Hasahochi Community Center and Park, and then GEAR resources and kind of next steps. So we wanted just a minute to give each group to give an update to where things are at. If there is any update, it's fine if there is no update. Maybe this is a good time to remind kind of what the next action items were from the last agenda, and that's pretty much what it would be. But does anyone want to go first? I could go by item, so DEI calendar. I think we have a list of DEI information, dates, etc. And I think in our last discussion at the meeting, we had talked about really the city equity team being the holders of that, and we can be the communication in connection to community for different events. But I think maybe one action item is really finalizing what that might look like.
And just sending it off.
Yeah. Any discussion or thoughts on?
Yeah, well, just kind of, you haven't had the opportunity to meet a lot on that one, but we were at a point where once we had that document together that we could pass it on, perhaps Sarah already has a copy of it.
Yep.
And she's got her team of employees that do all those different events throughout the city. So we're more of a resource versus planning of those events. So
The ERG will be at the May Community Equity team to give you a presentation. So maybe at that time, we could share the DEI calendar and just share that kind of what your vision is for them to use that.
Yeah, I guess my thoughts on the vision for them using it would be simply, this is a starting point because there is nothing. So we're giving them something. And then every time there needs to be an adjustment or something, I feel like, it's their job also to stay in the loop because that's what they're interested in and what they want to do. But it's also ours to advise, hey, we've got this new thing, sort of thing. And then we go out. Like, I don't think we need to revise it every year kind of thing on our plate, at least.
yeah, and I guess I just want to make sure that we are, this is nothing new to that team.
Yeah.
This is nothing new. And so, if anything, we're just giving some, input and advice as they go along. But that's their role. They've been doing that now for, a few years. Yeah. So this is nothing new. So, I mean, us sharing that updated document is
just simply an update.
Absolutely.
And that's it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I like that.
Yep.
So the list that we have is just for your information and suggestions, and you can do what you will with that list. And I think where there's opportunities for us in co-collaboration is if the city's already going to have an event, you know, us being there, if there's an opportunity to highlight something from community or leadership from our team or anything else like from the city, I think that there's some collaboration opportunities there. But I think anything, again, we're advisory, and this is really kind of information, and the city should do what it should do, and based on what it feels is right.
I think that's the extent of our role when it comes to those things.
Yeah. So Hasahochi, similar.
It's similar kind of thing.
Yeah.
We've just been passing it on to the mayor, and the big recommendation is they have conversation with that community.
Yeah.
To find out what they want and what they believe they need.
Yeah.
So that is something, you know, we're just advisory, do, you know, that kind of thing. That's our, to me, that's our role when it comes to events, unless we're involved with them in a particular event.
And I just want to, for clarity, Sarah, is that, again, how we're defined as a committee, that's how it's set up, right?
Advisory, correct, exactly.
I did have a chance to go by Hasahochi today, a friend visiting from out of state, and it's being used, and it looks like it's a wonderful space, but I'm looking forward to us really fully getting the park operating and really fully with what the community needs are. So it's a great space. And then GARE resources, we had mentioned a potential resource locally to help us understand the GARE, what GARE is and what resources there are, and maybe help think about a structure for the city in regards to using those resources. And Sarah, we had mentioned a local person from GARE that we could probably potentially bring to our meeting to discuss some of that. So that's still on the table.
It seems to me that that is the subcommittee at this point in time that's most important. For us, you know, to go forward, we need to know what it is that we want to do in terms of criteria, and to be able to share that with the department heads and people, or when they come in with their plans, so they understand what it is that we expect of them, and vice versa. So to me, that is the real critical piece that we need to be focusing on now. That's my opinion.
I would add, as we start meeting with other department heads and learning about different plans, those resources are going to be particularly useful for us. Number one, to make sure that different parts of the city understand the importance of this group and what we're here for, and then also, you know, help implement some of those tools. At least not, you know, we're not going to be necessarily implementing them per se, but as we start analyzing different plans for the city, we may be using some of those tools, or later on in our agenda talk about an abbreviated version of that. So,
is our expectations going to be that as new plans are drawn, that the tools that we have, we're going to ask that they utilize them, or are we going to use them as a way to evaluate what's already been done, or what is the thought pattern on that? I'm just curious.
I think it has yet to be determined, and I think as we kind of further our understanding of GARE, what those tools are, and we engage with the city, that'll become more apparent.
Okay.
I mean, that's just my thought, but
I guess that's what I'm saying. I think that's why I say that's the most important thing that we need to be focusing right now.
Yep.
We need to get our foundation in terms of what we're doing, how we're doing it, amongst ourselves before we can actually share that out to department heads and what have you. And I just think we need to really zone in on that and figure out what it is that we want to do with the GARE tools and whatever.
And we talked about offering trainings as well, correct? We're still in the process of determining whether that's possible for either new employees or all employees, or part of the package that typically is given out anyway for what's the word I'm trying to think of, privacy, acts and things like that you have to do as a government employee. Usually you have to
Yeah, we have a number of like new onboarding employee
Yes.
trainings. And I know that this team wouldn't be expected to do any trainings. I know
Right.
that came up at
Right.
the last meeting, but if with the guidance of this team and the gear resources, help us point us in the direction of the available trainings that are on the website, so that then we can pass that on to the employees. Because right now everyone has a membership to gear, but we need some type of resource like Sarah to help us, okay, now that we have our membership, now how can employees use it?
Sure. Yeah, because I'm thinking of like the HIPAA laws and stuff, all those kind of new things that you have to go through. We always had technology-based videos that we had to watch as a city employee,
Yeah.
But I don't know if we want to go to that extent, and, but
So-
that's a discussion we can have, right?
See, to me, that's something that's down the road.
Yeah.
To me, I can't say it enough. I believe we need to define our criteria. We're talking about, we've got these plans that are coming in. How are we measuring those plans? What are we using? What tools are we using? And I think Colleen was talking to us last time, and which was a good start in terms of where we're going. I think we need to stay on that and get that done, because those plans are going to be coming this way.
Yeah.
And then we can't be operating willy-nilly on how we decide. I just think we need to really focus on that.
So that ties into our rubric then, at
Yeah.
that point?
Later on, as we discuss, we'll unpack what that rubric is in detail. But that's, will be a suggestion as we move forward with engagement with department heads or the city staff or plans. It's at least a starting point until we kind of start defining that foundation more deeply. And in fact, what, we advise the city to do as they're starting their plans, maybe earlier or current plans as they are. So again, those tools are a resource to understand where unintended consequences may lie for disparate outcomes to marginalized communities, traditional marginalized communities, and then how do you mitigate those? So that's, they really point towards deep engagement with communities most potentially impacted. To understand that, as a city employee, I'm just speaking from my own experience as a former city employee, we don't know all the answers, yet we're responsible for crafting policies that impact a lot of folks. So it really points to deep engagement to understand early what potentially might those impacts be, mitigate those impacts, and so that public policy is really equal and benefits everyone in our community. So that's kind of the really high level of what GEAR is about in changing those outcomes and being intentional about it. So, does it make sense? Any further discussion on our first agenda item or 4A? Now we'll move on to 4B, and this is a review of the questions and criteria for plan reviews. This is a rubric that Colleen put together, and I think it's phenomenal, but we want to go through it in a little more detail. So I'll pass.
Is it possible to put it up
Share
on the
it?
screen?
Absolutely. Are you in the Zoom right now? If not, let me hop into the Zoom,
Okay.
and then if
I can get in there.
are you
Yeah, I
sure?
can-
Okay, yeah, if you click on
Yeah.
the Zoom link, and
Yeah.
then you'll be able to share it.
Okay, I think that would be good.
Okay, it's from Scott Yarbrough.
Sorry, we have to register.
Oh,
it's-
yeah.
Are you registered for the meeting?
No, I'm not in the Zoom, because I didn't plan on sharing my screen, but
Okay, it'll only take a sec, I think.
yeah, I'll see you pop through.
One thing, just as we pull that up, just to add to the conversation and why I think this will be important for us is, I think it will be very important for us very early on to engage the rest of the city so they know
Sorry.
so they know who we are. I think without that information, we become kind of this mysterious group of like, oh, they're going to be dictating to us how to do things in the city, and that's not our role. But at the same time, open that we're a resource for the city to do business better. And I think bridging that gulf of I think right now, especially politically on the federal level, there's a lot of misinformation about what equity means and what groups like ours do. And so I think we really, this tool can really be helpful, number one, for the rest of the city, but also for us in engagement to make sure that we are showing up as a resource to be beneficial to the city. So I think I'll just put that out there because without that, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for misinformation to seed itself and to say that we're this group that we're not. So
that's also why I believe that it behooves us to perhaps invite the heads in and for them to get to know what we do, to share, because there's a lot of, like you said, misinformation about what our group does.
yeah. So Sarah, maybe one of our action items for today is putting together a list of that invitation and having that as a regular standing part of our meetings as we move forward.
Having a different person
Yeah.
come to, absolutely.
And just to get to know us, just
Right.
and what we do. And
Do you have an idea of who you'd like to see first? A listing of different, or just any department head? Or do you want to see someone who is working on a current plan right now?
The plan seems the most relevant. Otherwise, we're just shoot it out there,
Right.
you know? But I guess we also don't really have a plan for how we're gonna review their plans. So if they ask about that.
well, I don't necessarily. It doesn't really matter because I think for me it doesn't really matter because I think each and every one of us they're important for them to know who we are. So, and however we start, it may have to be based on availability.
Right.
Yeah.
You know. So.
One of the questions they will have is, what kind of questions does the team have for us so they can come prepared? Does the Community Equity Committee have like some questions that you want them to be prepared to answer? Or
To me, it's not so much questions from them as it is us being able to give them some information about us.
okay.
I mean,
And a
I
discussion.
definitely want to learn about them,
Yeah.
Their departments and what have you.
So maybe a high level
Yeah.
overview of their department and then what questions they would have for us in regards to resources we can provide for them
Okay.
and how they see us moving forward with them.
Perfect. I'll work on that. We'll establish a list of future department heads that we can
Yeah,
invite.
yeah.
And then we can have our first one at our next meeting.
Great,
Okay.
It's a really good idea.
thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah,
for
because
the
that's
delay.
a little different than when they come in with their plan.
Exactly.
With their plan, that's different. We'll have different, questions.
Right,
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so before I jump into the rubric, I just kind of wanted to explain like where it came from. And so this document is a document that is it takes from GARE, so the membership that we already have, and Race Forward. But what we were finding when we were using these tools, particularly with like nonprofits, was that it was a level of detail that people found difficult to the point where it was a barrier. And so we created a kind of more simplified version of it. And so I'm not gonna go through all of this, but I just, like I said, just wanted you to know where the rubric starts. So when GARE kind of has the tool, they talk about these are the steps. So first, obviously, we're naming what are we looking at and what are we kind of going towards. And then the second is kind of, I think about, what do we already know? So that's kind of the data collection piece. And then we get to engagement. So who have you talked to? Who's impacted and who have you already spoken with about that? And then moving into what are those mitigation strategies? So like you were talking about, and sometimes what you're gonna find is like, we actually realize that this is not going to be equitable. And we may not actually be able to address that right now, but now that we say it, like we can talk about how we can improve things moving forward. So it's just about kind of surfacing where those inequities may show up. And then implementation plan, and finally accountability, and being able to come back and say like, how do you measure success, basically? So those are like the high level questions that are part of that tool. And so I just wanted to start there, and then now I will, see if this lets me just switch to the next one. It does. So in this document, I linked to a bunch of different tools. The very first link is the one I just shared, but you can see there's lots of different tools that are out there. Many of them are very in-depth, and so certainly feel free to take a look. But this rubric is connected to the first one that I shared. And I think just a little bit to respond to one of the earlier questions, like when we had our first meeting, we talked about there's really two paths, probably more than two, but there's at least two paths. One is what is going to be available, expected of, supported, by the internal staff. And that's, I think, gonna be like a really long process. So it's gonna involve that, kind of training, scaffolding, and creating the tool that is probably gonna be one of those more in-depth tools, I think. And I think, we can certainly be supportive for that, but I think it obviously needs to be something that is desired by folks who work for the city, and there needs to be some infrastructure and, support. And so that's kind of one pathway. And then for us, we were talking about, using that simplified form as a way to look at the different plans that might come before us as a predictable way for folks to know like what they should be preparing when they're making their plans. And that's both for them and for us, right? So that like we have some guide rails for ourselves in terms of, because I know when I look at any plan, I have all sorts of opinions about it. Are they related to equity? And so, how do we kind of stay in our lane, basically? So all that said, this rubric is something that like I just came up with it, and so like please feel very free to make suggestions, comments, or even to say, I don't really know if we need a rubric. But one of the things that I have found is that even when you have like those 6 steps, people still get kind of confused about like, well, what does that actually mean? Or maybe they're not confused, but we don't actually think the same thing, right? Like I think it means this, and you think it means that. And so for that purpose, I thought, maybe we could start here and come up with together, like, what do we see? So again, kind of going through those 6 steps, the first one we would be asking for is, does this plan have a clear equity outcome articulated? And then the second piece is, how do they collect their data, and does it include data that is going to mitigate any kind of disparities? And then the third piece is around that community engagement. Have they done community engagement? If so, who have they talked to? If not, what have they done to make sure that they're listening to folks who are impacted? And then, have they incorporated strategies to advance racial equity? What's the plan? And then coming back to that accountability and communication strategy. So I don't feel like it would be helpful for me to like actually read through this rubric. So I'm not sure what is a good strategy for this, but maybe we can just take it like row by row and just see if people have questions or feedback.
Can I just say,
Yes,
I think it's great because I think we all filter differently.
Mm-hmm.
We all filter differently, but I have a question. The first plan that you talked about the city and whatever, isn't that one that would fall under an HR versus us?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, all right, I just want to clarify that, all right.
Okay, I just have a comment, sorry. From a high level, like, I see the word equity a lot in here, and that's the word I want to see, but I also see the word racial in here as well. And I really would hate to see us get so far down, like, the race-guided viewpoint that we forget about all the other inequities and intersectionalities. Like, that's what I'm trying to think of here. And when we first saw this, I think it was very based off, like, racial equity strategy, mitigation tools and whatnot, and that is very important. But I just was, like, reading through it, trying to figure out if it was like too narrow-minded per se, and we were forgetting about all the other groups that we're representing.
For example, help me.
For example, yeah. So like the strategies, for example, for advancing racial equity right there. Like racial doesn't feel like the right word to me because we try to represent all the different groups. There are, I'm trying not to be ignorant in this statement, and maybe I'm not understanding the true definition of
Safe
it.
place, we talk
It's
about
okay.
safe place.
I'm just like, there's gender, there's sexual orientation, there's, disability status, there's all sorts of other protected statuses and minority groups and whatnot. And I would just really wanna make sure our tool hits all of those without having to say them, because that doesn't matter, right? It's just about trying to make sure it's a safe place for everybody and everyone feels, it's an inclusive space, that sort of thing. So I just really wanted to throw that out there because there were a lot of references to that in supporting documents and things like that. And I just wanted our viewpoint to be very community focused. I don't know.
I agree with that. At the same time, I'll just share some information.
No, I appreciate it.
Around how GARE, really their theory of change around this work is centered. They lead with race because race is the common history of disenfranchisement in this country, and it's predominantly so if we look at the disability community or look at the LGBTQ community, which is part of that community as well, racism can still show up within those communities as we're trying to advance equity for that community. So we have to center race and lead with race, so that is not a racial disparity comes out of our movement for LGBTQ liberation. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying
I'm
putting a
just
value
like trying to
statement
figure
this way or
out
the
the
other.
separation of
But it's just their
word.
it's just
versus
GARE's
definition.
theory of change around what justice and equity and liberation looks like. So my own perspective is it's a collective approach, and we have to be clear that we're as we're doing liberative work, regardless of marginalized community, that we're also unpacking the racial injustice that may be inherent within that group.
Yes. And I think I was referencing GARE less. I do understand that tool, and I've done some research into it. It was more so just the rubric.
Yeah.
If it was gonna be like our rubric,
Yep.
I wanted to be extremely clear that we're like truly the community equity advisory committee,
Yeah, and I hear you, and I think I like literally pulled the first column straight from GARE.
Okay.
And so the rest of the language is like my ideas,
And
but like I think we
it all
can,
looks
I mean, no, that's okay. I mean, feedback is important. And so, I personally, I'd be comfortable just having it be strategies for advancing equity unless it feels important to be
I'm
more
not
specific.
100% tied either way. I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure I said it so that, I've got people I talk to about this group and their actions, and I don't want to say that we're just focusing on one thing when they're concerned about their thing to some extent, right?
I would say what we should do is, I love this, first of all, this is excellent, and thank you for putting the work to put this together. This gives us something to work from, but I think maybe one of the next steps is for us to work to put some comments in here and have this conversation more deeply and really make the tool that we need. But I think that's one, but I think the spirit of that reality of maintaining a racial lens as we're doing the work, again, that I kind of unpacked, whether it's an asterisk at the bottom that we will maintain a racial equity lens as we're doing this work in a collective way, even though the language here, whatever, we can add that language and make it so that we maintain that spirit, and it is capturing all of the things that we're thinking about when we think about equity.
I just wanted intent to be clear.
I appreciate that. That's great. And my same thought too around a clear equity outcome, and then language is really important in this work, right? And so the term well-being for me was like, what does that mean?
And that goes back to my point where we all filter things very differently. Very differently.
But I think this whole meeting, we could spend 3 hours on doing that work. So let's pull that into a
I almost wonder if
conversation.
it'd be worth circulating this out and then just all of us redlining it.
So that's the question I was going to just bring up around public
Not
meetings.
collaboratively, but just come back the next meeting and share our red lines.
That's a really
Publicly.
wonderful idea.
And then you just narrow it down to like 3 or 4 things that are super important, and if we fly through everything, then you just start going down the list of other things that people have thoughts on.
How do other groups do that?
I don't see why we couldn't have a document that is just on like a SharePoint site, and then we all just, you can edit it at any time. Unless you're having conversations
That's
in the
the lie.
documents.
I don't know, I'm one of those, I take value in our sitting and talking about it.
Yeah.
I take value in that. And again, we all bring to the table our personal values, what's important to us and what have you. And I think without this discussion, we're not doing what, we could do it in a different way and on SharePoint and all that. But I think there's value in us sitting and talking about it and figuring out where to go. And that's why I said earlier, this piece of the work is critical. This is the point where we should be starting with our foundation and getting this all cleared up.
I think within that too, that discussion is where we learn and grow.
Yeah.
And so we all bring our own personal lens and
Values,
experience
yes.
and values. And I think really, we're a collective group.
Yeah.
And have important connections to parts of the community. I think it would be worth, maybe the process is we have access to the document so that we can make our notes and bring those notes to a fuller session, and we really focus maybe the full session on making this the document we need.
I could totally support that.
Agreed.
Do you want that for the next meeting? Or do you want a little bit of time for the department head and then any remaining time to
Do we
work on the
think
document?
we'll have a plan to review by then?
Well, this is just an introduction, the first meeting, so we're.
No, I just mean in general,
Well-
like, is there something of this is a high priority, but
Yeah.
is there a deadline kind of thing?
Well, we went through those plans at our last meeting. Sarah went through those, and so we could start that process at any point. I think what Sarah did at the last meeting was the prioritization of which ones are at
Yeah.
which stage. And
I
so I
don't think we
think,
have any coming
That's
to
what I was
the
figuring,
next
it's like,
meeting.
are there any
Yeah.
that we really need to like?
Not for the next meeting, but coming soon. The housing plan is
Yeah.
coming
Yes.
Oh,
soon.
absolutely.
Yeah.
The housing plan is coming soon.
Healthy neighborhoods, is that one?
It's going to council in April,
Okay.
middle of
So-
April.
Miss our window on that one.
so I think this is, again, as Janice said, a high priority for us. I think if we spend the majority of time at the next
Yeah, for
meeting,
sure.
we have the meet and greet with the city department head and just to get to know us, maybe that's 20, I don't know, we can figure out a timeline, but it could be a short meeting. And then spend the remainder of the time finalizing this. But that would require that we have homework individually to go through this and be ready to present some
Always
thoughts.
down for some homework.
Yeah, no, that sounds good, and I really do mean it when I say, like, this was just rough draft thinking, so please do
No, it's a
feel
great
like,
job.
But no, this is good. This is
Yeah.
good. This
Yeah,
is
no,
good.
it's really
This is a start.
Yeah.
We need this, yeah.
I just wanna say, don't hold back, like,
All
it's
right.
fine.
This is- no, this
It's
is good.
fine.
This is
That's-
good.
The push and pull is where I think the good work comes up, so,
I would I would propose that we try to make it a goal that we complete the process at the next meeting as best as we can, because and just try to come to an agreement on where we are, so we can move forward.
Rubrics can change.
Yeah,
So
they
we
can.
get
That's
something
true.
out and we
That's
use it and we're like, hey, this is broken.
that's a very good
Just
point.
reopen the conversation.
I mean, and actually it kind of goes with this whole strategy of like, okay, well, like we should actually build in a checkpoint in 6 months where we come back and say, how's it been working? Or, in a year, whatever we decide, but I think that's good practice too, is just, especially with something new, coming back and seeing how it's going.
Or do we hold off on inviting someone, and this next meeting be completely devoted to this?
I would second that.
I would
Okay.
say that, yeah.
Okay.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna know how important this is or whether it even performs the way we want it to until we've actually implemented something into it.
So we need to have it solid. Okay, so I guess that'll be our next meeting agenda item, just working at this.
Sarah, what do you need from me to make it so that everybody can have access to it? Do you have what you need?
Yes, I can just put this onto a site and I guess, do you want it individually? What I can do is I can put it as a shared document so everyone can go in at the same time and make edits, but I'm just hearing that we don't want to do that. Everyone wants to do it individually, so what I can do instead is email it out to everybody. and then you can just track your changes in there. Okay,
Yeah, that makes
perfect.
sense.
Okay, excellent.
I don't know if we have time, but does anybody have any other things like just right now that you want to make sure that we are thinking about?
No,
Okay,
that
great.
was my only thought, yeah, that I had. Thank you so much, that's great, and thanks for all of your work to put that together. So,
Gives us a path, yeah, that's great.
so moving on to 4C, recognition for businesses and individuals, and Sarah had an update to our last discussion.
Yeah, I spoke with Mayor about how the committees can, any committee or this committee can make, recognition for businesses or individuals that.
Speaking of the mayor.
That go above and beyond, and she said she can write a letter to that business, or there is the mayoral awards at the end of the year. So she awards a business, she awards, I believe, a resident, and then an employee. So those three. So we can make recommendations to her on whichever route we'd like to go. So either a letter from her or making a recommendation for that individual or business to receive the mayoral award.
Okay. Was there an update with our last business that we had submitted?
So that's what she'd be looking from the team is, would you like her to write a letter or would you like to make a recommendation? Now, I thought she thought that he got one of the mayoral awards, but I looked it up. It looks like Fitchburg Pharmacy was recognized in 2022 being a bicycle-friendly business. So I think that's what she's
Okay, that's
thinking
what I thought.
of.
I think it was this past year.
Right.
He's,
So I don't believe Fitchburg Pharmacy or Thad Shoemaker has been
Okay.
recognized.
So I think at our last meeting, we had suggested that they be recognized, not a letter, but formally recognized by the mayor. I'll just open that to the floor.
Can you recap what your suggestion for the
I'm
pharmacy
looking
and the
back
reason why? Yeah.
Sure. Look at the meeting.
And I've got it pretty good in the notes too, in the minutes.
Can you?
Absolutely, yeah,
Thank
let me get to that. So there was a motion to recognize Fitchburg Family Pharmacy for stepping up to provide gender-affirming care for youth in our state, along with the pandemic response and their continued leadership and being a good neighbor. So the recommendation would be shared with council and the mayor to do some type of recognition, and that's where we weren't sure what that recognition would be. Would it be a proclamation? Would it be a formal recognition of some other kind at a council meeting? And when I spoke with Mayor, she had suggested either a letter from her or we could make a recommendation for to be recognized at the mayoral awards at the end of the year.
And they were recognized in 2022, you said?
For being a bicycle friendly.
Oh, bicycle.
Yeah.
So any discussion or thoughts?
I struggle a little bit because a letter from the mayor is great, that's really cool, but it's not like an official recommendation. It doesn't carry the same weight that I think you're intending to provide. Like with the initial thought, I think it doesn't necessarily carry the same weight. The mayoral awards, that would carry, I think, a similar amount of weight to a traditional proclamation or our bill from the council. So I really don't know where I stand, to be completely honest, other than that's how I feel. So I don't know what direction it would go, basically.
Personally, would be good with us recommending them for the business award at the end of the year. And just to make things more complicated, I wonder if we could suggest that there is an equity award at the end of the year that would be added to the ones that already go out, and then we could have that opportunity, to have that be something that's highlighted slightly differently than, whoever normally gets the business, but.
So we might want to put some definition around that.
I guess one of the questions, are we trying to do this separate from the mayor's, annual thing? Or is this someone we want to suggest to her to consider?
Great question.
Or are you trying to do a separate kind of award? I guess that's
I guess when I brought it to the table, my thought was, how can we highlight the work that's happening in the community that is needed, that would fall kind of under a broad idea of equity and just recognition. And so it could be.
So that's different,
yeah.
that's so totally different than what the mural, her annual thing. Because this past one, I was recognized as resident of the year, but then there was someone from the fire department. There was Roots, the company Roots, and then there was Squibby's Grove. So
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, so what I'm hearing from you is something completely separate.
I'll leave it to the floor and the committee to have kind of further discussion on what makes sense. I guess, my vision, I shared just that, we're recognizing business and communities or individuals and their work around equity.
Of equity.
Yeah.
So see, in my
Yeah.
mind, where I'm filtering
Yeah.
this, that's an equity kind of
Yeah.
award, kind of thing we're talking about, so. I'm not saying it's wrong.
Oh, no.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying I'm just trying to make sure
We could bring it
Some
back to the
clarity.
mayor
I
and
don't
also
know.
ask, is it something you want to add within your framework, or should we move that within our framework? We're advising, again, the city, and what makes the most sense around what the city would want to do for recognizing that work.
I like the letter idea. I do. I think that also lends itself to getting some publication from, like in the Fitchburg Star, where the mayor could highlight some things there too. I think it depends on how far politically she wants to take this, though, as well. Is she gonna say, okay, I'm going to back a position on abortion, or not? It's not abortion. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Gender inclusive care.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the word. And does she want to be actually publicly back that position? I would think she would, but we don't know.
Well, and so I would caution as well within this that I want to set aside politics as a separate bucket that we're not swimming in. That is not really, it shouldn't be, but it is. And if there's a way that we can make that separate from recognizing the work that's happening in the community, that we're not tying those two pieces, but I don't know if there's a way to do that. I mean, we're a municipal government, and
So we're just saying then that we would just recognize the pharmacy for
its leadership.
its leadership in the community, its business model.
And if that's the case, that clearly could fall under the mayor's, her annual thing, because she recognizes businesses and residents for the leadership and the work that they do in the community, So
I'm
I
happy
guess
if-
I'm trying to understand
I would
where we, how is it falling different, unless you're saying, at least in my mind, unless you're saying, we want to recognize an award that deals specifically with equity. And underneath that umbrella of equity, the pharmacy does this, and that's why we recognize. So I'm just asking you, is that where you're coming from?
Well, I think that's the idea that you had shared, really, is just that, we were given two options. Let's go back and say, hey, we'll throw a wrench in that. Would you consider adding another award to that night? And that award is focused around equity contributions in the community.
It might be more palatable for her to say that it came from us as a committee than to specifically her awarding, saying it's just from her because.
I'm happy with whatever direction we go and we agree.
Well,
to
me, I think that's something that we ask her about in terms of adding in. I mean, she recognizes businesses for a lot of different things, the leadership and whatever, and perhaps she'll recognize the pharmacy for the leadership and equity and whatever. I don't know.
So Sarah, would you want to bring that piece back to the mayor, and that we can make a decision based on her response idea? But I think it's worth
Table this.
See, to me, unless we are saying as a committee, we want to establish an equity award program, so to speak.
Yeah.
it, you know, then that's a different beast, so to speak.
I guess I feel like if it's coming from us, it should, like it should be about equity and inclusion, right? Like if it's, yeah, so to me, I think that's why I said, maybe we do this other ideas, just, I feel like if it's coming from us, it should be about that.
So with that, what are your thoughts about bringing it back to the mayor and tabling it before we kind of determine the next?
That sounds great.
Okay.
Would the team be open to the equity award happening at the same night as the mayoral award? Like it would be part of?
So that would be at the end of the year?
Yeah, or would you want to keep it completely separate?
I would be open to that.
To me, if we're gonna do this, if we're saying it's coming across, then that should be something separate. Then that should be something separate, because if it's that important for us to establish, then we need to do something. That's just my thoughts.
I think when I was thinking about it, I was imagining it as part of the same thing, but I don't feel super strongly about it. But I was thinking it would be like, we have these, 3 awards now and just be 4 awards next year that we would recommend.
So with that, if it was a different time, do we see having the mayor and our city council or alders there as well to be part of that presentation? Yeah.
Let me ask you this too, this question. If we're doing that, is it just, at this point when we're thinking, are there other businesses at this point that we, I know you suggested the pharmacy, which is great, but there may be some others that we haven't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that leads also to the question. I love this conversation. These are awesome.
That's what I say about conversations.
I know. Is really, I brought it to the table, we voted on it, made an argument for it. That's a process, right? But I think part of that is defining what are the criteria that we're looking for, right? And so putting some definition around it. If we're gonna go that route and we have our an award that we're presenting, then we would have some definition. And this is what we're looking for. So then it gives a fair chance, right? So if there's folks in the community or businesses that would like to be considered for it, that they are actively meeting these criteria, much like our rubric. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Is this something that you'd want presented at a meeting, or would there be a separate type ceremony? So, I just see, I see us slipping out of our advisory role very quickly with this, and having our own event and our own award. Even our own award is probably moderately okay, as long as it's kept within the meeting sort of thing, and we take a moment to do it, and there's a photo similar to Common Council. Yeah. But I would be against doing a full event as a committee hosting it. It doesn't seem advisory, it seems active. So I don't know. That's just.
And I suggested, if we are strong on the word advisory for this, then we're advising the mayor to include something on equity. Yes. Period.
And that was my intent at the last meeting, because I was leaning on the advisory part that we would consider that. Want to honor all of your time and work and things that you do outside of this group, and recognize the hard work that you bring to it and not add more to it. So.
I'm not trying to get out of work. I'm just trying to make sure we're not setting a bad precedent for the future, that sort of thing.
So in essence, we're the mayor to add a component of equity awards. Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
Perfect. I'll talk to Mayor.
Thanks for the discussion. I love that. Let's see. So moving on to 4D, standing items and current events. I'm going to pass the mic to Janice.
Well, we've got a couple good things going on over at the senior center. One of our things is, obviously equity and inclusion, what have you. So we work really hard to try and ensure that we are taking a look at how do we include older adults of color, what have you, to come and participate over at the center. And that's not always the easiest thing to do, because you want to make sure that people feel welcome and want to be there and what have you. So we've been, constantly adding new projects and programs and stuff. And we've got a couple new ones coming up. Number one, we've got one that's coming in April, and it's really a celebrity bingo. And we're working with the different senior apartment buildings within Fitchburg, inviting them over to a day of bingo. It's no money's involved, right? But they will, and we have a celebrity anchor from Channel 3 that's gonna be doing the calling. They come over for lunch and what have you. So this is just our way of having them become more aware of what's happening over at the senior center and feeling an inclusionary kind of thing. So I'll pass this around, you guys can share it. That's one of the things that we're doing. And the other thing is that we're doing something new, is that we're all, again, under the want to be including people, inclusionary and equity in terms of offering different kind of programs to draw in different individuals. We normally aren't open on Saturdays, but this Saturday is our first Saturday opening. We're having urban line dancing. Yeah, so it's gonna be fun. But this a couple of things. This will, clearly inclusionary, but it also inclusionary from a variety of angles in terms of people of color to come in, as well as individuals that work during the week and can't come, can't get over here for programs, during the week, so on Saturday morning. So this is another one that we are. So those are two things. So, and it's open to everybody. Female, male, come out, just join us for fun stuff.
Thank you, Janice.
Yeah.
Thanks for your leadership.
Yeah,
always.
we're really just trying to, open up some doors. Here, Sarah, give you one. So that we can, but we've got to, we're just trying to look at different ways. How do we reach different people? Everybody has different needs, and different things excite different people. So we're just trying a lot of different things. So, but you guys are welcome. Everybody's welcome to come to these events and share them out with other people. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Any other current events or items that we should bring to the table?
Well, no matter what political view you are from, there's a rally this Saturday called No Kings. That will be down at the Capitol. So if you're so inclined, it's going to be a big one. Thank you.
What time?
My understanding, I don't want to get it wrong. I'd have to look and see, Tara. Yeah. But I know it starts, I think the rally, they're gonna from Brittingham Park and then walk to the Capitol from there. I wanna say it's like around 9 and then or 10 and then the rally's at noon. That's what I understand.
Great. Thank you. And just a reminder, if you go, be safe and love nonviolence. Any other announcements? I think I just went into announcements without meaning to. It was more current events. Sorry about that.
Oh.
So number 5 would be announcements. Are there any announcements?
It's entirely possible it might not be at the next meeting.
Okay.
Just it's an FYI, but I don't know yet.
Okay.
So much.
Yeah, just let us know.
That's my announcement.
Thank you. Great. If there's no other announcements, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.